Hello and welcome to the TFITS podcast. My name is Mac Rowe. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, sitting to my right. How's it going for you, buddy?
It is going great. How are you doing tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Good.
I'm trying to find the volume knob
You don't need to find a volume knob. They need to listen to it loud.
for the music here.
Crank it to 11.
All right. Welcome to the TFITS podcast. Wherever you may have found us in whatever dark corner of the internet you were lurking on, we're glad you're here. And we've got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot planned for you.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that right?
That is absolutely correct.
All right. Well, let's start off with our now legendary segment.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck are we drinking?
What the fuck are we drinking? What the fuck are you drinking?
Yeah.
The fuck I'm drinking is a hazy little thing. It's an IPA from the brewing company Sierra Nevada.
Ooh, nice.
Yes, I haven't had this one before, I don't believe.
I think I have had that. I don't think I've had it out of a can though. I think maybe it was on tap or something. But I remember having a little taste of that. It's pretty good.
It is absolutely a good IPA. It is absolutely...
Yeah, Sierra Nevada's solid. They've been around for years.
It's really citrusy. There's a heavy citrus punch to it. Oh, I'm sorry,
Right.
my friend.
No, you're fine. Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
I'm just pulling out a summer shandy. Somebody left a Leinenkugel multi-pack in my fridge, and I've been sipping on them here and there. Pretty good.
They're a great porch beer for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely porch beer. Porch beer quality.
And that being said, porch beer quality is, some of the nicest nights that you'll have just sitting there,
Absolutely.
looking at the stars, watching the neighborhood kids play, cars driving by down the street.
What kind of porch beer do you like? Send us an email at tfitspodcast@gmail.com and let us know. What's your favorite porch drink? It might not even be beer. It might be sassafras.
Everybody loves a good
Or wait,
sass.
sassafras is a plant. Sarsaparilla.
No, sarsaparilla comes from the sassafras plant.
Oh, does
You're
it?
absolutely correct.
Gotcha.
So essentially, root beer is made from the sass.
Mhm.
And so if you're rolling on some MDMA, get yourself a real root beer, and you can repeat yourself slightly.
Well, don't try that at home, kids. And
Do try that at home,
we're
or
definitely-
at clubs, or at raves, or wherever else you happen to be.
yeah, we're
And enjoy
definitely
and have a great night.
We're definitely not recommending anyone do anything illegal
Yes, we are.
on this podcast.
Yes, we are.
Our lawyers
all
have
the
already
illegal
talked to
things.
us about this, and
And they said it's not your fault if other people do stupid shit, even if you tell them to.
well, this is an entertainment podcast, ladies and gentlemen, so you can't take anything we say as medical advice or life advice or any
You
kind
should,
of
though,
advice, really.
because we will save your life at one point in time, and we will kill you at one point in time.
Well, we have
We're
saved.
not saying which comes first.
We
but
have saved lives. That's indisputable. I mean, you can look at the record on that, and there's definitely lives that have been saved by the TFITS podcast.
It's in the news. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
documented.
Look it up. Look it up.
The real news. The real news.
Right. We don't like fake news around here.
Mm-mm.
But we also don't do a lot of research, so that's why I think tonight we're going to talk about something that both of us are familiar with, being maybe psychonauts in our past, exploring the inner recesses of the human mind.
The deepest, darkest parts, the shallowest, shiniest parts, all the parts, everything in between.
Yes, the darkness and the light. We are going to have our first in a probably long series of episodes on the nature of consciousness. This is a subject that has long held interest for me. I've probably read, all kinds of books over the years, followed different theories about the nature of consciousness, and so I think it'll be fun.
All right. Well, to start us off, for the people who don't know what consciousness is, because they happen to be unconscious or unable to respond to any external stimuli, what is consciousness?
I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say 30% of our listeners right now are probably at least semi-conscious.
Or inanimate objects, either or.
Well, if you start counting inanimate objects, our numbers are huge.
Huge. Can't get numbers like this except for in China.
So do you have a hard definition of consciousness ready for me? Or
Oh, I absolutely do. A hard definition of consciousness is the state of quality of sentience or awareness of external or external existence. It has been defined variously in terms of qualia, subjectivity, the ability to experience or to feel wakefulness, having a sense of selfhood or soul, the fact that there is something that is like, to have, be, it, and the executive control system of the mind. Despite the difficulty in definition, many philosophers believe that there is a broadly shared underlying intuition about what consciousness is. According to Max Vellemans and Susan Schneider, anything that we are aware of at any given moment forms part of our consciousness, making consciousness experience at the time the most familiar and most mysterious aspect of our lives. And it's been a subject that's been explored by philosophers and theologists
Sure.
throughout time for many various reasons, for several different reasons, and none of them have been able to nail it down to the exact one acute thing of what it actually is.
Sure. Our old buddy Descartes famously said, "Cognito ergo sum." I think, therefore, I am.
Yes.
He said that was the only thing you could really prove, is that you are a thinking, conscious being just by the act of thinking. But is that the case? I mean, we touched on earlier episodes about the theory that reality is an illusion or a hologram, or that we live in a simulation. So, would consciousness be the byproduct of that simulation, or is it, like our buddy Descartes said, the only thing you can really prove?
Well, that being said, I don't know if you could actually prove it. In our day and age, we're being faced with technology that doesn't allow you to believe what your eyes and ears see and hear.
Right.
A company can take several pictures of you and take several clips of your voice and literally make you say anything on a video.
Sure.
How do we believe this? Like,
Well, so you're saying a company can do that?
anybody can do that, really.
Yeah, I was gonna say some guy in his basement can do that.
There's a guy on YouTube, Control Shift Face.
Mhm.
He's doing amazing videos.
Oh, is that the guy with the? Was it Nicolas Cage?
Yeah, he did the Nicolas Cage stuff. He did the
Who was it?
Bruce Lee.
They
And
put Nicolas Cage on as starring in like Raiders of the Lost Ark or something, wasn't it?
They did he did a couple different things.
Man, it was
I
so great.
can't remember exactly which one it was with him. But they
Like a
did
Tom
the
Cruise
Matrix
movie, I
the Tom
remember.
Cruise with American Psycho.
Oh, American Psycho. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, they put Tom Cruise in American Psycho,
Cruise,
which is
yeah.
great because
Sure.
that character was based off of Tom Cruise.
Sure, I could see that.
So yeah, it was. But how do we believe this with the technology that we're faced with now?
Yeah.
You really can't. And with that, the consciousness being said, is it something that's physical and tangible, or is it something that's more than, something that we can't necessarily feel, something that doesn't exist in a physical form?
Right.
Because where is your consciousness? I mean,
Exactly,
undeniably,
yeah.
you are you. So where is you in your body?
Yeah, I think we discussed this in our
We
simulation episode, where you can remove every part of your body, your hand, your torso, your head, and look at it and say, "Is this me?" And really, if you did it atom by atom, you would find that you don't find that thing that is you, that is consciousness. So, where does consciousness exist? What is the seat of consciousness? This is a question that's been asked by, like we said earlier, philosophers,
eons.
religion that's its main focus. I think is why are we here? Why are we conscious? What is going on in this damn place? Can I speak to a manager?
I want to get off. I am not having any fun, bro.
Right. Yeah. Well, and so I thought this would be interesting to discuss tonight, because I was reading an article today on a newer theory. I think the article was from 2016 or so, but there have been some papers written, and I think I touched on also in some past episodes about some exciting developments in the field of evolutionary biology. So our ability to rescue old DNA and learn all kinds of things by looking at the DNA of different animals and humans and different hominids has taught us a lot that we didn't know previously. Like, so that famous picture of the you got like a monkey, and then there's like an ape that's kind of walking upright, and then you have like a Neanderthal, and then you have like a modern human.
Yeah,
it's a very famous picture.
There's a question mark in there somewhere.
Yes, the supposed missing link, and so that's all been proven by genetics more recently to be completely bunk. Like, there is no linear evolution of the human. We were mixed in with Neanderthals and Denisovans and all these other hominid species that existed. There might have been as many as a dozen different species of humans, but we were able to interbreed still. We were close enough. So
yeah, that's like how horses and whatever it is can
Right.
breed, and you get a zebra.
Exactly. So, or a lion and a tiger,
You
that
get a
kind of
liger.
thing.
Yeah.
Right. So, they are different species, but we were the only ones that came out. Why that is a question for a different episode, but we are the result of this kind of melting pot. So there was no linear evolution from ape to man. There was just this kind of
A gangbang of human-like
oh yeah,
creatures.
I'm imagining it was just a total orgy for like tens of thousands of years.
Well,
of,
that's what's going to be, is something primal, a primal urge. Want to come, and you grab something that looks nice to you, and you stick your dick in it.
I'm gonna sample that, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Yeah. It'll be in several upcoming songs.
Watch out for that on the dance floor next week.
The remix of put my dick in.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. There could have been all kinds of things going on. We don't know. There's some interesting findings of some Denisovan caves in Siberia where it did not look like it was a violent intermixing. Like there was evidence of Neanderthals and Denisovans living side by side for very long periods of time and exchanging, maybe who knows what, like wives and culture and spit. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
who knows what was going on in those funky love caves back in the day. So yeah, it's interesting that consciousness existed before humans. Obviously animals are conscious in a certain way. That's something.
Plants are consciousness.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you
They
define
have
consciousness by a response, there's plants that will, they open and close depending on the light. There's been studies about
them growing better under the influence of music, or
exactly, and different kinds of music having different kinds of effects, and a lot of these have been shown to the repeatability of some of those has been shown to be questionable over the years. But there are some definite responses in the plant world as well. But so yeah, let's circle back around. The attention schema theory, which is what I was reading the article about today, is AST. So the attention schema theory is basically evolutionary and neurophysiological scientific theory of consciousness, which was developed by neuroscientist Michael Graziano at Princeton University. Interestingly, that's the guy that wrote the article that I was reading today from 2016. It was on. It was in the Atlantic, I believe.
Yeah, he has a lot of YouTube videos you can go and watch him actually talk about.
Oh, okay, wow. Yeah, I'm sure he did like a TED Talk or something at some point. It seems to be a theory that's picking up a lot of steam. So it proposes that brains construct subjective awareness as a schematic model of the process of attention. I'm just reading straight off the internet here. The theory is a materialist theory of consciousness. It shares similarities with the illusionist ideas of philosophers like Daniel Bennett, Patricia Churchland, Keith Frankish. One goal of developing the AST model is to allow people to eventually construct artificial conscious machines. So this is a path to AI by understanding the neural net that allows consciousness to exist. So,
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be an AI per se. It could just be a way to properly do computer simulations and computer engineering. Because if you know the shortest, most proper paths to take, then that's the path it's going to take. And the same can be applied to the computer world.
Oh, absolutely. And just the whole machine learning aspect, that could be sped up a lot by having some algorithmic knowledge of how this AST process works in the brain of basically this theory or this article I read was very long, but he breaks it down very well in basically understanding how consciousness would have developed in this neuromechanical model, which I find very interesting. But I think at a fundamental level I disagree with these materialists in a certain way that as we talked about in our, is the universe in a simulation episode, is it mind before matter or matter before mind? Did mind arise from matter, or does matter arise from observation, from consciousness existing in the universe? And I tend to think the latter myself. So while I might disagree with some of the fundamental building blocks of this theory, it's still very interesting from a evolutionary biology aspect to me that how the distinctly human ways that we've developed our consciousness and basically the machine that we're riding in, the machine of flesh and bone that we drive every day, how did that become conscious?
Probably it's our consciousness, because I believe it's a shared consciousness, but the collective consciousness was that, hey, we're going to take a little bit now,
and
we're going to put it in this physical matter, then we're going to put that physical matter over here and let it experience what it experiences. That way the consciousness as a whole knows exactly what it went through in its experiences. And it's a good way to get
I can see that, but that's basically kind of spiritual or religious, because you're positing intelligent design, that the consciousness thought like, hey, I'm going to do this on purpose. Was it
but that, with that being said, you can look at it where we've done this exact thing as physical human beings. If you just look at
Yeah, we have.
science of language.
Sure,
Just,
yeah,
just
yeah,
the
I
science
can
of
see that.
language. We have a social consciousness, a group of us, but
Mhm.
we decide on what sounds ooh, ooh, ah, ah means and how to understand it. And we've done that collectively all over the world. And that's how different languages have kind of formed. The linguistics
Oh, wow.
vary amongst humans. But our social consciousness has grouped us together here to understand these words.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. I mean, that's a whole other podcast in itself, the origin of language in the human species. Um, I've read a lot of different theories on that and find it fascinating. And maybe it's something we'll talk about right after these words from our sponsors.
What is this shit?
Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you bought whatever those
They did.
people were selling.
They did. They bought 5 or 10 of them, and then they sent us a couple because they want us to review them.
Sure.
And so we're going to do some product reviews. So go ahead and send us your products, and we will review them on air.
Yeah.
Honestly.
We are unabashed,
Unbiased.
Promoters. Yeah, completely unbiased. We'll promote your sex toys.
Buy this dildo. It sucks, but you should buy it anyway.
Well, now if you can make a dildo that sucks, you might be a rich man. All right,
Hey,
well, back
we're
to the
onto something.
subject at hand, my friend. What are we talking about? What were we talking about in the first
We were
half?
talking about the AST, is what I believe.
Oh, right, yeah. So, well, and this is part of the first in our series of episodes on the nature of consciousness. I don't know how long it'll take us to get through all this because there's a lot of different.
But
lot of
this is
different
part
stuff to
number
discuss.
4. You've missed parts 1, 2, and 3 already. Go back and
Oh.
listen to those.
Man, I think I missed parts 1, 2, and 3.
No, you did not. You
Don't
were conscious for all of those.
don't listen to him, folks. He's just trying to deceive you. This is the first episode in our series on consciousness, and AST was something interesting we wanted to bring up. So it can be summarized in 3 points by Mr. Graziano of Princeton. The brain is an information processing device, is number 1. Number 2, it has the capacity to focus its processing resources more on some signals than others, a selective focus. They called it a spotlight, I think, in some of the literature I was reading, our ability to move our consciousness from one input source to another. The ability to process select information in a focused manner is called attention. That's how you define attention. And then third, the brain not only uses the process of attention, but it also builds a set of information or a representation and description of attention. That representation or internal model is the attention schema. So that's kind of the root of his theory of AST, is the schema part of it, of attention schema theory. So, yeah, like I was saying, I might disagree with some of the premise of his theory, but I find a lot of it fascinating from the point of view of evolutionary biology. I think it makes a lot of sense in how we've seen these systems evolve in other creatures, as far as like feet and hands. It's like whatever whatever that creature
Happens to be most useful, gets
Yeah.
exaggerated and developed on.
Well, sure, and so if you look at whales, for example, like we think that they were on land at one point because they inside their fins they have, it's like a hand, like they had feet at one point and they walked around, but they went back into the ocean because that was whatever niche they filled. So
Yeah, that could have been one theory. The other theory is that it could have been more spread out, like, a duck's foot. That way it had webbing to propel itself through the water, but then that kind of condensed down.
Oh man, imagine a duck the size of a whale.
Mm.
Ducks are assholes.
As long as it weighs as much as a witch, we're good.
Yeah, not as bad as geese, I guess, but
No, Canadian geese are the assholes everywhere.
yeah. But anyway, how this developed in humans was kind of the point we were trying to make. And AST is just one of many theories on the nature of consciousness. It is a materialist theory, so it presupposes that consciousness arises from matter. So, there was just stuff in the universe and the primordial soup or what have you.
All right, let's go with this. We'll say that this is the definite version for this podcast anyway.
Yeah.
That there was matter.
This is
and
canon.
then the matter sprung forth consciousness.
Sure.
So
Consciousness arises from matter. When some of us, myself included, would say that consciousness is the primary force in the universe, and that the universe, as it exists to our eyes and ears and everything.
yeah, but for the intents and purposes on this episode, consciousness came from matter. Okay, so
Oh,
let's
okay.
say
So
from
we're
the
gonna-
matter.
Yeah. Okay, I got you.
Okay, so from matter came consciousness, and so you have this consciousness. What is the point of this consciousness? What would its driving force be then?
Exactly.
To evolve, to continue, for perpetuation of its species.
Well, to survive, really.
To survive, yes.
survival of the fittest and all that. That's often misunderstood as strongest or fastest, but fittest just means adapting to your environment. And
Exactly.
humans are nothing if not adaptable. We live in every nook and cranny of the planet. There's some interesting things about our ability to go into water. I don't know if we touched on the aquatic ape theory before.
No, we haven't.
On the podcast. Yeah, I
Well,
think
we did, but they already listened to that podcast, so they know all about it. But go ahead and give them a refresher.
Yeah, it's just it's a theory that popped up in the 70s, I think. I'm just talking off the dome here, but it was basically that humans evolved certain traits, such as the fact that we lost our hair and that we can control our breath, which is largely a autonomous process. Why would we have these things? Why would our ears be adapted to keep water out and that sort of thing? It was because at some point in our past, and this is probably when we were still thinking more in a linear fashion about ape to man, where's the missing link between ape and man, that kind of thing. We didn't really understand everything that genetics has shown us recently. Is that so basically, I'm getting off topic, but the aquatic ape
exactly
theory,
on topic.
aquatic ape theory is basically just that humans at some point in their past lived largely in the water, which is how we evolved certain things, and it's been largely, I wouldn't say debunked because there was never any evidence for it in the first place. It was just a theory that people played around with the concept, and it was tossed around through different sciences, like biology, anthropology, all that kind of stuff, and it came up with nothing. So it's largely been dismissed. But a lot of people, David Attenborough, for example, just brought it up recently, which is where what brought it into my consciousness again, because it's a pretty old theory. But so there's a lot of competing theories for the evolution of consciousness, and what brought this to our attention recently is just the fact that there's been so many great leaps in the some different sciences as far as neurology, the neurosciences,
Neuropsychology, even.
Yeah, exactly. Evolutionary biology, looking at how different animals may have developed different traits at different times, and all of that's kind of coming together to really give us new insight. Because this was always the realm of a religion or philosophy previously, and now science really has something to say on this matter. So it's something we've been following closely.
Oh, absolutely. And with that being said, though, what you're talking about with the survival of the fittest and adapting and prevailing moving forward, a lot of that it's us understanding that there are other forces that we are not able to perceive. For example, light. Our eyes see a very specific wavelength.
Oh, sure.
We know there's other wavelengths out there.
Yeah.
But our eyes filter those wavelengths out, or actually, they don't filter them out very well at all. That's why we have to wear sunglasses. But we just don't perceive them.
Well, that's why we have eyelids and eyelashes. And
but our brains might actually be able to interpret them. Like we're receiving these inputs, but we don't see them, while other animals or species are able to see these. And that being said, there might be. Well, we know there's sounds that we can't hear. We know there's colors
absolutely.
we can't see.
So famously, you got Roy G. Biv for the light spectrum. And we already know that beyond red is
infrared,
and beyond violet is ultraviolet, and we can't see or sense those, but they are there. We only have 3 trichones in our eyes. That's why we have the 3 primary colors, and everything that we can see is made up of those primary colors. And
that one shrimp has like 5, and they can see
exactly
billions of colors.
right. So what the hell is that thing looking at all day? That's pretty crazy. And why would it evolve that trait? Very specific needs in its.
Well, I think in our case, we blocked that out. We put filters on. That way we were able to survive in the world that we presented.
So we only have 3 left, basically, because those are the only 3 we were really using.
If we needed to be underneath the water and be able to blast, a supersonic wave from our hands, we would have evolved with those abilities, but we didn't.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that the, what is that thing called that has the super punch and has all the trichones? It's a some kind of rainbow.
Yeah, rainbow shrimp.
It's not a shrimp, though.
I believe it is. I think it might be.
But yeah, it's great. Evolution produces some very strange creatures, and humans are certainly counted amongst them.
And now, with that being said, our consciousness, we might be able to receive subliminal messages, not messages to motivate us to do things, but stimuli that we don't perceive that dictates as to us how we might respond.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So it could be something weird we don't even know about, some kind of, so something.
Everybody has a feeling or a funk at times. You just don't feel it.
Right. Well, so take this for example. Like the Earth goes around the sun once a year, and it rotates every day, so we have day and night. So we've adapted to more naturally be awake during the day and asleep at night. And if you expand that way out to the galaxy, like the sun moves on the spiral arm of the galaxy around the center of the galaxy.
Correct.
So, is there some longer day-night cycle in the galaxy that we don't know about? We could enter into like dark energy and light energy, and maybe that's why we developed consciousness at a certain time, because we came out of that part of the galaxy that obstructed whatever inputs we needed to develop, that full consciousness. So,
Correct. And that would explain a lot of the major catastrophic events that have happened locally, like to planet Earth, that could have happened on a bigger scale in the grand scheme of the universe. Like we just happen to be at the right place at the right time, and we developed these in order to exist now. And then eventually, at some point in time, we won't be able to, just because there's going to be some cataclysmic event where we enter that night phase instead of the day phase that we're in currently.
Sure, and then famously, we're heading towards the Andromeda Galaxy at however many thousands of kilometers per second, and I think it's in a few billion years we'll collide with the Andromeda Galaxy. Our galaxy will, so
that should be a great party.
Well, it'll happen slowly over hundreds of millions of years. Of the two galaxies will eventually merge. They've kind of caught this with the Hubble Deep Space Telescope. They've kind of caught the aftermath of two spiral galaxies merging. So it's a known phenomenon, but it's going to happen to this place. And, it could happen and we might not even notice it. Like the sun could just keep on going. And as long as our local solar system doesn't directly collide with anything, then, it would probably
business
be fine.
as usual.
Yeah, we would probably be just fine. By then, the sun's going to burn out. So if we don't get the hell off the planet, then it might actually work out in our favor. Maybe some of that sweet real estate over in the Andromeda Galaxy will open up.
Yeah, boy.
So
I got a bridge to sell you.
Yeah, call
us at TFITS. Email us at tfits@gmail.com.
Yeah, we do need to set up a phone number so people can call us. I would like to have some voicemails and stuff that we could play on the air.
That will happen. I will give you a great phone number. It'll be great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ideally it would be like 123 TFITS or something, but
yeah, we're not going to be able to get that.
12 TFITS. Wait, so if I TS, we would need and you got to have the area code and everything. So 69 TFITS or TFITS 69.
We will get you a phone number shortly, folks, and it will be great. You will be able to call us and leave us emails. You will be able to text us.
Yeah, you can definitely email us right now at tfitspodcast@gmail.com. You can get a hold of us on Twitter, tfits3. We've got an Instagram, do we?
We do have an Instagram that is TFITS Podcast. Yeah, it's there.
At TFITS Podcast. Yeah, send us pictures of your neighbor's dog at TFITS Podcast on Instagram.
Send us pictures of your neighbor's butthole. We're good with that too.
Yeah, you can. We should set up a Snapchat. Is what we should do. So you can send my friend here pictures of your neighbor's butthole.
But those will time out. We want to go back and review them and put them on the podcast and let people know about every crevice and hemorrhoid that happens to be there.
Man, I don't know about that.
Well, if there happens to be a hemorrhoid, we're going to talk about it.
That's a whole different podcast, but
it is.
I think that.
But we had a subliminal stimuli to get us there. Well, and like I'm saying, our psychology and our consciousness, we're more perceptive to things that we realize. If we're only using 10% of our brain, that's been actively shown.
No, that's actually not true.
It is true.
No,
at one point in time, you're only using 10% of your brain at any one point in time, with the exception of when you're under extreme duress or if you're under medications or chemical influence. Then you can use more than the average person is 10% of your brain at once.
I don't know about that. If you use more than 10% of your brain at once, email us at tfitspodcast@gmail.com.
And please provide proof, because I would like to source this.
I think at least 30% of our audience uses 40% of their brain 60% of the time.
Which isn't exactly true.
I use 20% of my brain 100% of the time. So do with that what you will.
Well, it's been shown if you take I'm sorry, we're getting off topic, but people have taken doses of LSD, and it shows under MRI and that their brain is working in various parts.
If you've had an MRI while you were on LSD, email us at
Please do, because I would love to see your files.
Because I want to know what that's like.
Well, that being said, these people are just seeing geometric patterns.
Sure.
And then some people have used meditation and said that they're seeing the exact same geometric patterns.
Okay.
So now who's to say that those geometric patterns aren't there naturally, but our brains and our eyes or whatever it is happens to be filtering them out because it's an information overload that we can't take 24/7. It's just something that we can't physically stand.
Well, and I think that's a good theory, but that's what we were talking about earlier with AST would posit that we don't see it because it's not useful to us to see it in a survival sense.
In a survival sense.
That
yes.
input didn't stop us from getting eaten by the saber-toothed tiger, so we've naturally selected it out. So our ancestors may have been much more sensitive to these other inputs. I think we don't have a whole lot of time left, but we had spoken briefly about the bicameral mind.
Yes.
I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's I don't know if the original guy was Julian Jaynes, but he did have a book about it in '76 that was The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. It's a very interesting theory that basically maybe we can do a whole episode on this eventually,
absolutely.
but it basically says that a theory called, or a metaphor, governmental bicameralism, to describe a mental state in which the experiences and memories of the right hemisphere of the brain are transmitted to the left hemisphere via auditory hallucinations. So, put it in layman's terms, it would basically be like he was putting forth the idea of God was our own brain, which is strangely, hemispherical. So there's only one branch between the brain. There's a whole other podcast in there on people that have had that severed and like the weird things that happen. You ask them questions and like, the right side of the brain will answer, but the left side can't get an
There's
answer.
no grasp,
Yeah. So it's very interesting. This theory was basically, if you read some of the earliest Greek tragedies like Homer and the Odyssey, and it's always, it's never in first person. It's like that person was commanded to do these things by a voice that was
a
God
third party, something greater than them.
Exactly. And so it's an interesting theory about the nature of consciousness. That would basically, it's another materialist theory that would say that our brains were autonomous and we evolved into consciousness by growing out of this bicameralism, and it got us to where we are. But once we didn't need it anymore, we've selected it out. So us modern humans don't really understand
Ain't that
it.
a bitch?
We don't hear God anymore, basically. So the voice of God is gone from our heads when it was really just an auditory hallucination to allow us to survive or adapt to our environment. Because sometimes you have to make hard choices when you're surviving that you don't want to make, or and having this complex system, that you're of choice that you can control as a human, you might make the wrong choices in the evolutionary sense, of like.
And now applying that back to the sense of perpetuating yourself into having a greater understanding, and applying it to the theory that there was a larger consciousness that decided to take part of itself and put it into a physical matter,
right?
Just to experience exactly that. That way, it would know exactly what these experiences were.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense when you think about it like that. So I think we're running out of time tonight, my friend, but what do you think about our first episode on the origin of consciousness? I think we covered a lot of ground.
I think we started to lay some base work for some really good conversations.
Yeah.
A lot's opened up. There's a lot of information there. We didn't quite get exactly where I think we should have, but
right,
it's a great start.
We'll
this
get
is
there.
A multi-part series. This is more than a two-part series.
Yeah, it's going to take us a while to cover this all, but I think, we got to touch on AST and bicameralism, subliminal. I think the whole idea you were introducing about subliminal suggestions ties
not
in.
Even suggestions, subliminal stimuli. It's just
stimuli, right.
We respond to things that we don't see immediately.
Exactly. I think that ties in well with bicameralism, and I think we covered a lot of the early ground. Maybe next week we'll get into there's just so much to cover here. The evolutionary biology, the origin of language, even the more recent discoveries about the genetics behind it all. It'll definitely be fascinating, so you're going to want to tune in next week, folks, for the TFITS podcast. You got any message for them out there tonight?
Keep loving one another. Be excellent to each other.
Do it. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
Good night.
Bye.